Hey, Daryl, how are you?
Doing awesome, man. Thanks, Sammy, for having me.
Appreciate it. I am really excited for this conversation. I think sales and marketing are things that get thrown around a lot, things that people need to improve on. Some people have a bad kind of connotation and stigma around it as well. So I'm hoping you can kind of break some of those myths around it and teach us a little bit. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Background, born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Got an entrepreneurial start. Had the bug itching on me around age 20 when I was in college at UNLV. Went to school for an engineering degree, but ended up getting a finance degree. Started that business when I was 20, and it was a commerce business. I was I played football, baseball, basketball growing up, so I would always catch me wearing hoodies and hats and whatnot. So found some vendors, bought some product, went out to the swap meet, paid my rent fee for the day, and sold product out of the trunk of my car. Had a Honda Civic at the time, so that was my first foray. It was a profitable venture, but I realized I didn't want to be in the product business after a while. So I just kind of shut that down, took the money that I was making, and paid some college tuition. Fast forward to out of college, went into the world of financial services. I actually got a degree in finance, thinking I wanted to go work on Wall Street and portfolio theory, analytics, analysis, and all that stuff. But had a son. By that time, I actually had two kids around 97, 98. And it just didn't seem practical for me to pick up to a Wall Street firm and start from scratch because I'd already had expenses, those expenses, those things that you got to pay some bills. But yeah, so I transitioned into the full time into the real estate and lending industry, which was sort of my second or third, if you will, business, because I did start a business with my buddy in college, and it didn't go too well. It was a janitorial service, and we'll save that for another day. So anyway, started the real estate lending industry, did that for about 12 years, and exited that industry into what we currently do now, which is we have a digital marketing agency. Um, and if you want to talk about why would I exit an industry that seems to be so lucrative, we maybe cross that bridge when we get there. But no, for the last 11 years, we've been helping small and mid-sized companies essentially grow revenue online for since 2010, and we're well over 300 million in revenue for our clients, and so that's where you find me most of the day, and we'll uncover more as we go, I'm sure.
For sure, for sure. You said a lot about that. First of all, I don't know how you wear hoodies in Vegas summer, but we'll, we'll take
Not
that on
during
a
the
different.
summer, not during the summer, winter.
There you go. That's better. My question that I like to start before we dive into a little bit of your three really totally different industries that you've been in is the five categories. I like to ask every guest how they rank them and what do they think is their biggest strength. And the five categories are money, it's happiness, it's relationships, physical and mental health, and then career/purpose.
No question, physical and mental health have been a staple in my life, and I found early in my days, and again, I did have the advantage of being an athlete growing up. I didn't go play college ball or pro ball, but the DNA of being an athlete, you feel a certain way, and you feel a way in order to be effective. And I just never wanted to lose that feeling, even if I was off the field. So little did I know that in the world of leadership, when you're in business, when you're a parent, starting a career, growing a business, your physical and mental health is key. So I became a student of personal development in my 20s. Started reading books early in my 20s, and personal development, self-help books, things of that nature. If I wanted to learn something, I read. So I began that. The other side of it is the physical health aspect. I pretty much have tried to keep there's going to be some years where I didn't keep this routine, but it's pretty commonplace for me to have 3 to 4 days a week in the gym or doing some sort of exercise. Here recently during the pandemic, I started running because I just was locked in the house. We shut our office down. We have a 100% virtual company now, and I didn't realize what it was like. I didn't realize that going to the office was part of a physical regimen, and so I started running. I'm a flat-footed guy, so I had to figure that out because it hurt bad at the beginning. And but no, I think that's my strength out of those five.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely hit the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I try to as well because it's something that clears your mind, helps your mental health as well. And I'm sure that we'll get into some of the books that you're interested in. You recommend. I see Art of War is behind you on the bookshelf. That's a classic.
Yeah.
But what got you into selling? I know you started with the clothing line. How did you transition between industries? Is it just a confidence skill that sales gave you, or how do you go from three unrelated things and make it all work?
Yeah, great question. Selling, no one wakes up in any uh, state of mind and says, let me go into the world of sales, right? What happened to me was, again, I started that clothing business. Now, at the time that I started selling the commerce, I was actually a general manager for Taco Bell while I was in college. So I started as a fry cook when I was in high school. And, when you do things well, people notice. I guess I fried tacos really well. And they noticed and they were like, hey, if he can fry tacos really well, maybe he can do some other stuff like run the back kitchen and run the front line. And sure enough, I ended up being a general manager when I decided to stay in Las Vegas and go to school because I was looking at going to the University of Arizona and trying to walk on to their baseball team. But when I decided not to do that, I ended up in leadership, running a restaurant, $800,000 a year restaurant. Then ended up, saying, "Hey, this will pay for college quite nicely." They were very flexible with my college schedule, so everything just worked out. But I ended up going into the world of real estate in 92. I got my real estate license first in 1992. So if you think about the world of real estate, it's a sales job, right? So I entered that world at that time. And of course, I don't know what I'm doing. So I go to the training, I get the courses. I came across a guy named Tom Hopkins and all the big names that are out there still. Some of them are still there today. And to be quite honest, I I hated the idea of selling because the way it was taught to me at the time, or at least my memory of the way it was taught to me at the time, was that I had to have certain words to get someone to buy. I had to have an objection handling technique for a response that they were going to give me. And as I went through the process of cold calling and the whole nine yards, back then is obviously pre-internet. I'm 51 today, so I'm in my early 20s. It just felt icky. It just didn't feel good. And I'm not that savvy of a consumer at that time, but I just was like, there's got to be a better way. So I ended up meeting a guy who taught me direct response marketing, which was a non interruptive way to get your message in front of your prospective customer. And if and only if what you said in that message appealed to them, would they raise their hand and reach out to you? And I'm thinking, I like that strategy better, even if it means I get less response. Because when I'm cold calling, I'm calling 60 to 100 people a day, and you're dealing with the hangups, you're dealing with all the stuff. They'll say, yeah, come by the house and you can talk to us about listing the house. And then you get there and they're not there. Right. It was just drama to me. So I started getting good at direct response marketing, copywriting, and that's sort of what led me into the world of marketing. But what I found, Sammy, was that selling done right is a conversation between you and a prospective customer about a problem they have that they would like to solve, and your product or service potentially being a solution for them. And once I got out of the idea that I had to have an objection handling technique for everything they said, over time, and I'm able to look back in hindsight today because I've got a well-regimented formula and a well-regimented conversation. But at the end of the day, sales is just a conversation. Either you have the problem or you don't. You either want to solve it or you don't. My product or service either fits or it doesn't. And there's some dynamics in there, of course. But if I'm trying to convince you to do something you don't want to do, that's why people hate sales. And that's why selling doesn't work. And I just learned that that wasn't my style. It wasn't part of my makeup. And I work from a point of empathy, meaning I want to understand what your problem is and how you want to solve it. I want to understand where you've been let down by someone else who's in the same industry as me. And if we seem to be a good fit, let's work together. I am happy to ask the question for us to work together. And that's where a lot of people go wrong in sales, is you do have to ask the question. Like, once you realize it's a good fit and they are committed to solving the problem, product or service can help, it is your responsibility to ask for the deal. And so I'll leave it at that, just to open that up and see if you want to go somewhere from there.
Yeah, for sure. I think is that knowledge that you mentioned, that the pretty much binary, I would say, right? You either product fits or it doesn't. They either want to fix the problem or they don't. Does that help you, or did that help you get over your fear of selling? Because when you're cold calling and when you're doing all this stuff, you're getting a lot of hangups. Like you said, you're getting a lot of rejection. You're putting yourself out there every time. 90-ish% maybe you're going to get rejected. So how did you get over that fear? Or is it just the simplicity of it, of that realization helped you?
So I do keep it binary, which makes it simple. First of all, the first thing is, and they tell you this when you first start sales, depending on where you go, is never take it personal. But listen, the human brain doesn't love being told no,
Right.
because we take it personal. I've never understood the philosophy of don't take it personal. What you have to do is separate the no with, you have to just understand, why did they say no? And in my industry, to go back to the early days of real estate, let's just take a quick example. Someone put their house on the market for sale with a real estate agent at XYZ company.
Mhm.
It was on the market typically for 6 months, which was a traditional contract period. And then the day that it doesn't sell, it shows up and lights up on the computer. Today it's a computer. Back then it was a book. And it says to the world of real estate agents in the marketplace that this person's house didn't sell. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the seller. They signed a contract to sell their house with a person who said they could sell it. 6 months later, it's not sold. What mood do you really expect them to be in when you call at 9 a.m.?
Pissed.
Not happy, right?
Yeah.
Not happy, right? So I just got a hold of understanding that. So you know what I would do? Instead of calling like the other 300 people that would call that morning, I just send a letter. And by the way, it was illegal to send it's against ethics to send a letter or call before the listing expired. It's still that way to this day, which is right. It's the right thing to do. I would just send a letter. Some people say, well, Darrell, well, you would never be the first person to reach this person. No, but I was the first person, hopefully, who would reach them with empathy. So I would send a letter that said something to the effect of, and assuming they opened the letter, and I had a strategy for how I did that. But I would send the letter and not tell them what they already knew. Because what we said on a sales script back then was, hey, Sammy, this is Darrell over here at Money World Realty, and I noticed that your home didn't sell this morning. I noticed your home was expired. The listing expired. Well, they're pissed already. Why the heck do I want to remind them of the thing that's pissing them off? So I would send a letter, and it would say the top 3 reasons why most homes don't sell in the Las Vegas market. And it was a free report. And they would call 1-800 automated phone line, extension 101, and listen to me explain. In the Las Vegas market, during times like this, there are really only 3 reasons why your house may not have sold. Item number 1 is this, item number 2 is this, item number 3 is this. If you feel like any one of those 3 were one of the 3 reasons, potentially, we would love to share with you more about how we handle those 3 issues in this market. Now, what does that sound like if we fast forward to today in the world of internet marketing? That sounds like a landing page with an offer on it. So that's what made me, people ask me, Darrell, how did you go from all these industries and end up in the world of internet marketing? Well, because I started internet marketing before the internet existed. So what would happen, Sammy, is I would send out these letters, and I obviously had to use special color paper, and I used a very large envelope so they couldn't throw it away with the rest of their bills. They had to open my letter because you just could not open a 9x13 gold envelope. If you go to Office Depot or Staples today, you can still find these envelopes, but I had to make sure my letter did not look like a bill. If it looked like a bill, they open it over the trash. So I wanted to make sure they had to open this envelope. And so that was the goal and by the way, what does that look like today? That's getting the opt-in in the world of internet marketing, right? So I just took an empathetic approach, and I was willing to play the ratio. And back then at this time, getting response rates of 0.5% on direct mail was pretty common. And I found a way to, and over the years, I tweaked it and made it better and tweaked it and made it better. And I got myself to where I get 3 to 4 or 5% response rate on this type of, and now the conversation is different because I've said something in the letter that empathizes with them, and they're like, hey, he's approached it a little bit differently. Let's talk to this guy and see what he's got to say. And I did this as I moved from the real estate industry into the lending industry, and now it's worked with all the companies that we do today. But I didn't get over the fear of selling. I didn't get over rejection. I do take it personal. and I've been in this game 30 years. However, my time of sitting in the seat of that emotion is very, very short.
That's
It doesn't
fair.
stop me from making the next call. It doesn't stop me from writing the next ad. It doesn't stop me from asking for the next sale and the next strategy call. So you just can't let it, you can't let it bother you.
That's fair advice. Yeah, you got to be process the emotion and move on from it or move through it. But you had mentioned a couple of those pieces where you're tying in the real estate to the digital marketing, and I'm curious to know your ATM digital marketing framework. Can we kind of flush that out and explain what the rest of that is and how you use it today?
Yeah. So the ATM framework, you'll learn if you're around me, I don't like to complicate things. If we think about the world of the internet today and where consumer attention is, everyone knows that it's on social media and it's on Google and it's on YouTube and it's all over the internet. So when we're working with companies that are really struggling online, the first part of the formula is attention. How do we get your ideal customer's attention where they are? And where they are might not be in motion to buy your product or service. Where they are might not be because they've recognized that they have a problem that you can solve for them today. So we try to say, let's figure out where are your customers today, and then let's figure out how we're going to get their attention. So A is about getting attention, and how do we do that today? Well, the buzzword of the day is content marketing, right? But if we really think about it, it's figuring out how to have a dialogue in the medium or channel by which they're using. If they're on YouTube, that's a video. If it's on Facebook, it could be a post. It could be a video. If it's on Instagram, it could be a reel. It could be. So the content has evolved and everybody gets all jammed up, but content originated with voice, just like we're talking right now. That's the original form of content marketing. On the flip side of that is, you look at TV ads. The first television ad, I think, hit the United States airways in 1941. It was by a company called Bulova, which is a watch company. I think they're still around to this day. It was an 8 or 10-second ad. Your audience can still look it up to this day on YouTube. What were they doing advertising in the middle of a Brooklyn Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies game? They certainly didn't expect the fans of the baseball game to drop what they were doing and go buy a watch.
Right.
Right? They were trying to get their attention. So step one is attention. Step two, and this is more relevant. My business, just so you know, I don't work generally in the world of emergency service businesses. Generally, I don't work generally in the world of, I don't do a ton of work in the world of e-commerce. So the second step is relevant to the type of companies I typically serve, and that is companies that have generally a longer term sales cycle where the product or service that is being purchased has a discretionary period where someone has to really think about the investment they're about to make because it's usually going to be significant. By the way, significant to me means $500 or more. It doesn't mean $10 million. So the second part of the framework is time. We know in sales that people buy from people they like, know, or trust. It doesn't have to be all three, but it's probably two of the three. They definitely have to know you. Otherwise, they won't know your product or service. I think they have to like you in some way, shape, or form, but maybe not. The definite one, though, is they have to trust you. So time, ATM, we want them to spend enough time with our material, our content, our brand, so that they feel like they can trust that our solution is the best solution for them. How do we do that today? We do that again with a lot of video. We do it with email marketing and follow-up, and any way possible, holding webinars, holding live seminars. One of the ways that you can know if it's working is when someone comes into your world and you didn't know they existed and they tell you something like this: Sammy, I've been getting your emails or I've been watching your videos on YouTube for so long, I feel like I know you. The first time that they talk to you, that is the time component of your formula working well. And why is that important? Well, you never know when someone's going to need your product or service, but every person has a sphere of influence of at least 200 people. As time goes on, you will have a sphere of influence of 200 people. So I've always said that if I am going to get an ROI in my marketing, my sales efforts, then I need to first focus on return on relationship. Build trust first. Be a resource first, whether they want to buy or not. And that's a core philosophy of playing the long game. Treat everyone as if you're going to help them, whether they buy today or not. And then the last part of the equation is obviously M for money. So you get attention, spend time with them to develop trust, and then you make it towards the money. And of course, money is where you're going to make the sale. So the framework starts there. There's obviously a lot of pieces in the middle of that, but we're always trying to get business owners specifically trying to understand that this is the long game. You didn't, a lot of our clients are seasoned companies. They're 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20 years old sometimes. And they're now hurting because they haven't figured the internet out, because all the offline stuff was still working. And now if you look at the world post-COVID, now they're like, oh my goodness, I
Mhm.
was taking for granted that this offline stuff, the trade shows, the seminars, the face-to-face, the blah, 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 the cold calling, the cold emailing, all of that stuff, even if they were trying to do digital, that would be there forever. And now, of course, we know the world's been shaken up by this idea that you may not be as in front of as many people as you once thought. So that they're in a place where they're hurting, and so they want a quick fix. A lot of people, they want a quick fix, and so they come to a company like mine, and they think that, well, because we're experts and because we've done over 300 million or whatever the case is. I even hate saying the number, quite honestly, but we have to say it in order to establish credibility over the person who spammed them last week in their email
Right.
box, who said you can rank on the first page of Google for $90 or something. So that's the formula: attention, time, and then money. And just being being smart about how you implement that into your business over the long term, and you will just naturally see the results of that effort. If those people that jump in internet marketing or digital marketing or whatever you want to call it, social media marketing, Facebook ads, whatever it is, and you just instantly run to the sale, you better have a big budget, because you're gonna need it, because your ROI equation is going to be terribly skewed.
Okay. And is that true, this framework, for all sales, for high ticket and like lower? Because you had mentioned high ticket, anything 500 or more. But if something is like a 30, 40, $100 deal, is that you still have to go through the same framework?
So I think it's less, it depends on the product, but yeah, lower ticket items, certainly, again, the shorter the sales cycle, the more commoditized, and that's not even true. I don't want to say commoditized, because if I think about a plumber, and we've helped companies that are in the plumbing space, but if I think of a plumber, no one has a Rolodex of the top 3 plumbers in their marketplace. They don't even care. They probably don't
Yeah.
even know who helped them the last time. If the sink is leaking underneath where the garbage disposal is, they're going to call a plumber to fix it. They hope the guy fixes it, guy or gal, and they're out. They write the check, and it's a wrap. So I don't spend a lot of time in sort of one-off, commodity-based services. And I don't mean to say a commodity like they're invaluable. Plumbers have a great job; they do a great job.
Right.
But I just don't spend a lot of time there, because the reason why is that in the consumer's mind, you don't occupy space in their consumer mind until it's an emergency, and they're already, again, irritated.
Hmm.
So if you only show up to do emergency service work, you're irritated. So content marketing isn't as effective. It can work. I remember an air conditioning company. We helped them quite a bit with their digital presence when they were growing. They were about a $500,000 a year company. I think we got them up to 2.3 million over a couple of years. And we did a really good job of, first of all, they bought into the idea that they wanted to be the leader in in content for their area. And then there was an adverse effect in that they were a local business, and all of their content Google pushed all over the internet. So they had people calling them from all over the place. And of course, they didn't have offices in all those other cities. And they missed a big opportunity, because they could have partnered up with plumbers everywhere those leads were coming in. And instead, they were irritated. They were like, well, why are all these people calling us from these places? And I'm like, you're just missing the point. The point is, call a plumber in that area and tell them you're generating leads online aggressively in their marketplace, not because you intended to, but because Google ranked your content there, and send the leads and sell them to them. And they just missed the opportunity. But it happens.
I agree. Yeah. Sometimes you're focused on one thing and something else happens, and it could be good, but you're dead set on what you had originally set out for. And, you got to be a little bit flexible in terms of what things are going for you, and take what's
Yeah.
there.
And
But
mind you, their business grew by 3.5 times. So it
yeah.
wasn't like they weren't getting the job done. It's not like we weren't getting the job done in the local market. It was just the overflow.
Yep, agreed. So you seem like you're helping some of the smaller companies build their brand, establish a digital marketing presence. And I say smaller companies, but they're still $1 million companies. But there's always going to be $1 billion companies and larger brands that everybody knows, right? How do you kind of handle that now in the content marketing strategy, even in Instagram or stuff like that? There's people who are quote unquote the OGs, have been there since the beginning and have tens of millions of followers versus people who are starting every day and trying to grow that presence. So how do you kind of compete that without the necessarily the credibility or the longevity that a bigger brand has?
How do you compete? How do we help a smaller company compete with the bigger brand that's already there? So the first thing is we don't worry about how many followers the page has, whether it's an individual brand, a coach, consultant, a thought leader. We don't care how many followers you have. So we're not interested in follower growth. We're interested in engagement. So the question is can we get engagement? What does that mean? It goes back to the ATM formula. Engagement means they're spending time with your content, with your videos, with your brand. So we spend 100% of our time worried about engagement. If they want to follow us, great. If they don't follow us, but here's the reason why we spend so much time with engagement. So this would be Facebook, this would be Instagram, this would be YouTube, this would be LinkedIn. We can track very closely, for example, a video. If we tell a business owner, for example, I'm going to take one that we're working with now. We're working with a business owner in the financial services space, another one in the insurance space, and their products and services are complicated. No one's really going to buy an insurance policy from Instagram, right? But they need to know that you're an individual who is seasoned in the industry and that you're sharp and that you've got a solution to their problem. So we do a lot of video in that regard, and we don't have to do long, highly produced videos. In fact, Sammy, we shut our video production company down. We had a video production company inside our agency, and we shut it down in 2014 because of the rise of our mobile phones doing video just as good as, and I'm not saying highly produced videos are never necessary, but for smaller companies, we're like, listen, it needs to be socially friendly. It needs to be short enough so that you don't really want to take and put 20-minute videos on Facebook or Instagram these days. But what we're doing then is we're taking the content out of their head, putting it in video, and then we're boosting that content or advertising that content to their target audience to see who will pay attention to it. We just did a campaign like this where we took 6 videos from this company expert. We broke down 6 topics because we have no idea which topic might work, which topic might hit. We created 6 videos. And by the way, we shot those videos on Zoom. So they didn't have to get highly produced. We did turn them over to our editor who chopped them up and did a couple of things to them, but nothing fancy, nothing that you can't do with a mobile app application today. It's nothing fancy. And now what we do is we advertise those videos for $1 or $2 per day. And some people think I'm crazy. What are we looking for? What are we looking for? We're looking for content consumption. If we can get cold strangers who, by targeting through Facebook and Instagram ads, if we can get cold strangers to consume a 1 to 2 to 3 minute video 100% of the way through, and they never knew who we were, that tells us a little bit about whether our targeting audience, whether our audience targeting is effective. Doesn't mean they're ready to buy, but that's how we start. So to answer your question, we're looking for engagement numbers, and we're trying to drive up the engagement numbers. And then of course, through the power of the algorithms and the pixels, we're able to expand those audiences based on that topical content, the engagement factor, and then we can ask the algorithms to help us out. So with a company that has no data against a big company, we start there and we just build this ladder: attention, time, and we spend time in that box until it makes sense. And then of course, we don't go straight for the money. We ask for the most logical first step, which is, would you like to download this guide? For example, it's a guide or it's a webinar or something like that, because we're still trying to take them through that time component until and unless they're ready to buy. So that's how we do it.
Okay, that's a lot right there. But one of the things that I am a person who, when I make a decision, I kind of go all the way versus gonna get guided to. So how would you kind of, let's see how to word this, is when you're going through the process and you're building the time and you're doing the webinar, something like that, and you're building that kind of relationships, some people view that as quote unquote time wasting. Like, I want to know the end price. I want to know what is it going to cost? What is it going to mean? Give me all the results. Give me all the thing. Give me the pitch first and then sell me later type thing, right? Build all that trust later. I don't care about it. How would you kind of deal with customers like that? How would you kind of coach your sales teams or anybody who's trying to get over that hump and be like, this is how you have to do it from a sense point from the majority of everybody who thinks like that?
Yeah, so I think what you're describing is there's different types of buyers in the market, and there's different types of buyer psychology. The buyer psychology that you're referring to is, in my experience, is sometimes they'll call it a high D if you're looking at a disc profile. They're a quick start if you're looking at the Kobe Profile Index, which is one of my fan favorites.
Mhm.
Could be someone who's deemed a type A personality, short on time, quick on facts, just get me to the bottom line. Well, the reality is in order to make a sale, it's not about the price. It's about whether the problem and the solution are a fit. So while if someone I talk to, if someone I talk to, first of all, someone like that's not attending a webinar. So they won't even sign up through that channel, right?
Mhm.
They will ask to talk to a sales rep. They won't go to the webinar, right? They're probably not watching the YouTube channel. They're probably not on Instagram. So that's the other side of it, right? So that type of person wants to get an answer to their problem. And if price is the motivator, that for my business at least, they may not be the right fit, right? Because we're in the expertise business. Like we have a set of skills, we have strategy tied to skills plus time, and we drive one thing and one thing only, and that's ROI. If they're looking for someone that just wants to do the work, like deliver some stuff, like put 25 posts on my social media because I've never done it, how much will it cost? Well, you're talking to the wrong company. In my company, we're a revenue driver. Like we don't have a schedule of how many times we're going to post on social media. Like we might post once a week. And the only reason we might do that is just to make sure that we're active. Our revenue, we're driving again through that formula. We're trying to drive attention, time, and then let that lead to money. So, for example, someone's on the phone with me right now and they say, Darrell, what does it cost to work with your agency? I'm going to say to them, typical investments made by our clients range between $50,000 a year and $250,000 a year. However, I have no idea where you would fall in that spectrum, right? And then they say, well, that's way more than I was planning on spending. And that's okay. You probably weren't thinking that you were calling an agency that had an entire marketing department with a creative designer who was going to be assigned to your account, an account manager, a paid media manager, a video editor, a content writer, as well as a head of SEO, all looking over your account. Well, why do I need all that? Well, that's how we do it because that's how we know, that's what we know is effective. So there's a different type of buyer who, if they're let me share a statistic with you, Sammy.
Mhm.
And this is a statistic. I don't believe every statistic I read, but the statistics seem to indicate that there are roughly 28 to 30 million small businesses in the United States. There are statistics run by the SBA and a few other organizations that seem to suggest that 93 or so percent of all small businesses in the United States never invest more than $1,000 per month in their marketing. So that means 9.3 out of 10 people that might call me or call our agency or something like that, I already know how the call is going to go. I already know how the call is going to go. It's not going to go in a way that bothers me. It's that they don't value investing in their business. That's really what it is. Because if you go deeper into those statistics, you'll learn that roughly 95% of all small businesses never make $1 million in a calendar year, gross revenue. So those are two facts that just are, right? They just are. Is it mandatory that you make $1 million a year? No, but it's an indicator that is there. It's just part of the facts of the small business landscape. So when I get on a call, I know that the customer who's telling me their budget is $1,000 a month, they're just not our ideal customer. It doesn't mean they're not a good company. Doesn't mean we can't even help them. It just means I'm not wired to do so. So I have companies that can help companies at that size. And so that's the way we kind of handle that call. It's not a bad thing. We just try to, let them know. And if they have $1,000 budget, they're not going to jump up to 50K. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
no way.
There's nothing in that conversation that, they either, they were usually the other question I ask is how much did they invest in their marketing and advertising in the last 24 months? And I'm just looking for a general total. And if that number is not 36,000, we're just not in the right space. So
Right.
yeah.
No, that definitely makes sense. It's a way to kind of profile and make sure you're doing your kind of prospecting on a customer as well to see if your values align. So I agree with
Yeah.
that.
And when
Um,
we get someone like that, we do have partnerships where, we have partnerships because we, again, as I said, we want to be helpful first. So we take the call, we take them through our similar strategic planning process. We just know that it's not going to end up as a sale for us, but we don't want them to leave the call and go get caught up with someone that's going to just steal their money and underperform. So we try to give them guidance. We have playbooks, we have downloads, we have worksheets, and we'll share that with them because we want them to get to the right resource. And that's why we have some partnerships for where they might be at their stage.
I agree, and that's a beautiful segue to something I want to bring up. You had mentioned earlier that you don't really go. You had taken all the sales courses. You had the script and objection handling format and all this stuff. It didn't really feel like you. I agree with that statement. It's kind of repetitive, rinse, repeat. But then there's also the flip side to that of automation, of automating follow-ups, like I said, worksheets and things like that you could have value and quickly send out to somebody. So where is that balance, and when do you start to automate your marketing and your sales pitch without being so robotic, rinse, repeat, and not take into account the different types of profiles of people that you're working with?
Great question. So it goes back to the key phrase. First of all, I automate at the very beginning. I think
Okay.
it's the biggest mistake in small business, trying to do too much manually. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, there must be a CRM at the base layer of your business. Everyone who contacts your business should go into a CRM. If they exhibit certain behaviors on the website by opting into something, there needs to be a relevant, that's the key phrase, relevant automated sequence. That automated sequence needs to be well thought through and well thought out for the level from by which that they entered that door. I like to say that the website and any of these lead funnels, they're like doors, right? They're doors. If they enter a door, what's the most likely path of travel if they come through that door? Let me give you an example. If someone goes to my website and books a strategy session to talk to our sales team, that door is at the bottom of my sales funnel. If they, however, come to a webinar that we hold once every month or once every other month, that is a different door. So they must be treated with respect to the door that they entered, right? So I use analogies all the time just to kind of make things a little bit relevant for those who may not be internet into this world that I live in with regard to opt-ins and lead gen and stuff like that. But if I come to your house, Sammy, for a party this Saturday, it's a party and the party's in the backyard and I arrive in the front door and well, first of all, it, hopefully I don't arrive through one of the bedroom windows, but if I arrive to the front door, but you never guide me to the backyard, it's not like, why'd you take me to the family room to
Mhm.
watch a movie? Like there's a party going on. So I use jokes like this with people because we want to just figure out what's relevant. Well, what is relevant? Is it 2 emails on the follow-up to the item that they requested? Are they deeper in the sales funnel? So for example, in my world, when we get someone into a bottom of a sales funnel, they opted in for a strategy call, a strategy session, a free consultation, whatever you want to call it. If they entered the world of a salesperson and they weren't just browsing the website to download a free resource, then they are excluded from traditional marketing emails, drip emails, things of that nature. The sales team has to disposition that lead and they have to disposition them as a deal, meaning they're an active opportunity, or until and unless they're not an active opportunity, and then they can go back in the general population of working emails. But automation is critical and it gives you so much leverage. But of course, today, most people want to be simple and know that the automated system will send an email every day if they want, or 2 times a day if they want. I see bad marketing in this realm every single day. My very first email marketing system that I put together was in 2003. I used a company called Get Response, which is still around to this day. And I was in the real estate lending industry at the time. And if you entered my world, you would hear from me 53 times
Oof.
over a calendar year, once a week for 53 weeks. Well, why was that? Well, I understood that if someone needed to buy a house or needed a home loan to go with a house, that it wasn't an emergency. I realized that I wanted to remain top of mind in the lowest cost, lowest friction way possible. Now, Darrell, what was in the 53 emails? Nothing but helpful tips. Nothing but helpful tips. There was never a call to action that said, start your home loan today. You know what it
Wow.
was? It was, hopefully this helped. Talk to you soon, Darrell, right? If you look at every industry, if you take all of the questions that your consumer would possibly ask you in the sales process and document those questions and answer one question in an email. By the way, we don't need a 400-word email. We don't need a 1,000-word email. It's just like, hey, I was talking to, here's a perfect example. I don't want to give an example in this case, but let's just say this. There are frequently asked questions, and there's never short of 15 to 20 frequently asked questions in almost every sales process. They come up 18,000 times. That's how I got
Yep.
started with internet marketing. I got tired of answering the questions. So I started recording videos, put them on a YouTube channel in 2007. And all of a sudden, I would send my prospective customers to this YouTube channel. And by the time they talked to me, I answered 10 or 15 of their questions. I can get straight to the money.
Right.
I could get straight to the money. But automation done right works well. There's a lot of bad automation. And here's the other side of it. How do you stop? How do you know it's too much when they're not engaging, right? How do you know they're not engaging? Well, if you have the right tracking system set up, I have a system where if you don't open the last 10 of my emails, and again, let's just say you're getting one a week. If you're not opening the last 10 of my emails, or you've opened at least one of those emails, but you haven't clicked on anything to go to my website to check anything out, you are deemed unengaged and you go into a bucket that says stop sending them emails. It doesn't mean you're irrelevant to me. It just means you're clearly not engaged with this dialogue. I'm going to disappear. I have a phrase that I learned 2 decades ago called there's no sense in being an annoying pest to someone whose timing is not in alignment with your offer. So the sooner you recognize that their timing is something you can't control, and you can tell if their timing is aligned because they will be opening your emails. Here's an example, the reverse side. A couple of years ago, we have this system in our thing where they get 7 emails. If you hit something on our website, you'll get 7 emails. It's essentially a micro course. It's a 7-day e-course.
Mm-hmm.
The open rate on this e-course at email number 7 is still 30%. Okay. So here's what I know. If you finish that e-course, you're going to book a call with my team. It doesn't mean that if you don't get to email 7, you won't book a call. You may decide earlier, but if you book a call after going through all 7, so long as your budget is relevant for our work, you're not only going to book a call, you're going to become a client of ours, because what we've done in that 7 emails is educated you on our entire strategic thought process. And what we've done then is we've removed the ambiguity of what's going to happen when I write the check, or what's going to happen when I start getting billed by these guys and they're supposed to do all this stuff I don't understand. So we teach people exactly what we're going to do in thinking, which is why the art of war is
Mm-hmm.
important. Tactics before strategy is the noise before defeat.
Mm-hmm.
See, everybody runs to a tactic. Hey, let me go get an SEO company. Hey, let me go run a Facebook ad thing. No, what's your strategy?
Right.
So we teach them our strategy for free. When we apply it to your business is when you pay. And I've lived by this for a long time, not just in the digital marketing space, right? I taught people how to get their own home loan from their own bank. One of the questions I used to ask back in the day was, they called me and say, Darrell, I want to qualify for a home loan. I was referred by Mike at Keller Williams, let's say. I'm like, great. Where do you bank? Oh, I bank at Wells Fargo. Okay, great. Why didn't you apply for the loan at Wells Fargo?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know. You know why? Because Wells Fargo got more money than me. They can make the loan cheaper than I can. I don't want to go down this line for you to only say, oh, I think I'm going to check with my bank. I don't want to practice. I don't want to practice. I want to understand, why didn't you go to Wells Fargo? And so that's another sales. That is a little bit of a tactic, but it's just really smart. Invite the reason why they shouldn't do business with you. If you're a good salesperson, invite the objections to the table before they bring them up.
Yeah.
So that's what I used to do. So, but yeah, so educate, help people. And if they're not engaged, just knock it off. Stop sending them stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're irrelevant. Just stop. They're not interested as you may have thought from the time they interacted with your website. And if you're doing good analytics and good data, you can see that. And if you're doing good marketing, you will take people in that bucket and move them out of the bucket. And people jump in the bucket and jump out of the bucket. Some people will convert, some people won't. You'll understand that it's just an evolution. And that works for all of the types of businesses that we work. And again, I think that level of detail is why we are more successful than some, and why we don't, why I think clients stay with us that are doing well, and they just don't, they're able to shut off the noise because we have things refined.
Yeah, I definitely agree that your approach towards a stimulus changes, right? And your ability to be flexible in how your mind works. And I think that's part of the mind shift method that you talked about. And I'd like for the audience to hear a little bit more. We're getting category in sales tactics, which is obviously awesome and learning, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about this mind shift method and how you're able to overcome some failures and setbacks when something happens. You can always look at it two different ways, right? One is obviously more negative, one is more neutral, and probably the third way is a little bit more positive and upbeat. So how do you develop that in yourself?
So I developed it from making a lot of mistakes, to be quite honest. So the mind shift method is a methodology, framework, if you will, of how I, in hindsight, because it really took me looking back over a number of, I call them roads in my life, that I ended up in some places where I was like, how did I end up here? And some of those were roads that I made mistakes and landed on those roads. Sometimes it was things where other people, I perceived other people did things that left me in a bad place. And I just decided back then that the facts were the facts. And a lot of times the thing that happens to us, negatively or positively, we want to rationalize out why it happened, whose fault it was, where to point the finger, where to point the blame. And what I just decided to do, and a large part of this is because I made some pretty big mistakes in my 20s. And in that process, I wanted things to be different. I wanted to take back the mistakes, right? I wanted to take them back. There are certain things you just can't take back. You can apologize until you're blue in the face. You can say, I'm sorry. You can say, I'm never going to do it again, blah, blah, blah. The reality is the facts are the facts. So now once that's step one in the process, right? Make peace with the facts.
Mhm.
Step two is, now that you know the facts, make a new decision about what you're going to do with the facts, right? They often say, it's not what happens to you, it's what you decide to do about
Mhm.
what happens to you. And the other side of it is that quote I like, but there's a part of it I don't like. And then it says, it's not what happens to you, it's what you decide to do with what happens to you. And someone said to me something, it was one of the most profound things I think I've ever heard. And that was, whenever something happened to you, you were there.
Hmm.
So you were involved. Even if that other person wronged you, you left yourself in a place vulnerable, right?
Right.
And so it always comes back to taking ownership for our actions. So step two now is, okay, let's make a decision based on the new facts. Who am I going to be? Where are we going to go from here? What needs to happen? And that goes to step three, which is deciding what's the plan going to be. I'll tell you the story, and maybe it's for your audience, and maybe it's helpful. It's a personal story. I tell it it's on my podcast. But so the mistake that I referred to in my 20s is, I had two children with my girlfriend at the time, and we split. First of all, I cheated on her, not once, multiple times. I'm not proud of it. I did decide that was never going to happen again. However, we were not going to stay together, and we didn't stay together. And she decided to move to another state, about 1,075 miles away from where I live. So now I have two boys. They were in my life every day. And now I've got to figure out how I'm going to be a father from 1,075 miles away. The facts were the facts. She wasn't coming back. Now, I did move there because I wanted to be close to the kids, because I couldn't figure that out. Like, my emotions couldn't rationalize. And I could go back in my family history and point to another scenario where someone left me, my father left me. But that's not the point. The point was, the facts were the facts. But my commitment and my decision was, I'm going to be a good father to my kids despite the facts. So what does that look like? I'm not going to do what my dad did and
Mhm.
dip and do something else. I'm going to be present They are going to know me as their father. I'm going to do whatever it takes. That was the decision. Step 3 was the plan. So, right, step 3 in the MindShift method is, what's the plan then? They live 1,075 miles away. They're 8 and 2. They can't get on a plane and fly by themselves. That means you're going to have to go get them, or you're going to have to plan to go spend time with them. I mean, by the way, this is before FaceTime and all this other stuff, right? So how do you stay relevant to an 8 and a 2-year-old in a pre-smartphone video camera era?
Yep.
And so I had to come up with a plan. And that was, to be quite frank, that was when I really put I planted my flag in the sand and said, I have to be an entrepreneur. That's the only way for me to do it. There's no corporation on the planet that's going to let me take the summer off when I have them here in Vegas. They're not going to let me take all of these visitations to go fly down there. By the way, so for 13 years, no, not 13 years, 5 or 6 years, 5 or 6, 7 years, something like that, I would have to fly to go get them, fly them back to me, fly to take them home, and fly back, right? So there's a financial commitment to that, plus all the other things. So step 3 is the plan, right? And sometimes we don't have the plan. Sometimes we have to ask someone for help, a coach, a mentor, a guide. And I think that's being in a place where you're humble enough to say, I need some help thinking through this. And that's why I've always believed in coaching and mentorship. And I've paid for advisors and coaches and mentors now for the better part of 20 years, even to this day. And step 4 in the process then is to make it happen. See, we make a lot of decisions in life. And then after the decision was made and the emotion after the decision is made and the emotion that we carried at the time of the decision dissipates, it's easy for us to say, I'm not that serious about that.
Yep.
Right. So now you have to figure out how to make it happen. And I'm always a big believer in what I call minimal viable actions. Right. If you're in the world of software, they call it an MVP, a minimal viable product. Put something in the market, get some feedback. And so my minimum viable action was to call the kids every Saturday or Sunday. And I knew I had to call through their mom. And there was a little bit of bitterness at the beginning, but we ended up being great co-parents, all worked out well, super blessed that we were able to get through that and parent those kids properly. But I made a decision I was going to call. Whether I reached them or not, I was going to call. What do I control? I control picking up the phone and calling. I can't control how the conversation is going to go. I can't control whether they want to pay attention to me. Obviously, computer games, not computer games, but the Xboxes and things came out. I can't control whether my son wants to play Xbox or talk to dad, the older one. My job is to make the call. So then the plan is, okay, here's the plan. And now what is to make it happen? What are the actions that are not negotiable moving forward? And I like to say that when you add some non-negotiables, you and I talked offline about drinking water, right? It's not a negotiable item for you to probably not drink a gallon and a half a day. For me, it's not negotiable to drink 10 cups of water. It's just not negotiable in my health and well-being. And once you build in these non-negotiables, some would call them habits, it just becomes part of your life. And so that's what the MindShift method is about. And you can apply it to business, personal life. It turned out that in 2019, something goofy happened. It was a really weird scenario. Won't get into the details here, but somebody close to me said, as they looked at me handle this stressful situation, they said, how do you do it? How do you just seem to deal with it? Was just great. It was chaotic. How did you just handle that, seeming like it didn't even phase you? Because my mental capacity runs through the formula, right? It runs through the formula. When the pandemic hit and the agency had to shut down, and all of 60% of our clients had to shut down through the shutdown. Well, guess what? When they shut down, they weren't willing to keep paying us.
Right.
They weren't willing to keep paying us. So we lost 60% of our revenue, 57% to be exact. Well, the facts are the facts. I mean, I'm not wild about it. I'm not wild that, businesses that were deemed non-essential were told to not do business, but the facts are the facts. Okay, what's the new plan? What's the new decision? Well, the new decision is find companies that are still allowed to do business. Yep. Okay, well, how do we do that? Okay, that leads to the plan. So we started running webinars. We started giving away our academy. We started doing everything we could to help those people that were still around in the game. And then, of course, we had to make it happen. And so that formula is just, to me, it's subconscious now. But I realized that I was talking to this young lady and she was just like, I need some of that. Like I need to be able to process stuff that way. So it's nothing, uh, I don't say it's nothing fancy, but it's simple in theory, but it goes back to one of the earlier questions of mental and physical health.
Hmm.
I've just understood that if I'm not happy about my current state, I was a part of getting here. So try my best not to look at anybody else or third party or external, and then break down what am I going to do with the information? What's the information? What does it mean? What am I going to do based on the information? Who do I need help from if I need help, or what's the plan of action? And let's just get to work, man. I was 38 pounds overweight a few years ago, about 6 years ago now. And I wasn't interested in a crash diet or anything. And I wasn't massively overweight. 38 pounds, you could argue, is not that overweight. I'm 5'8". I was about 215. And but I didn't want to do anything crash. You look around and it's this or it's that crash thing. And I was like, hey, why don't we just do this? Why don't we move a little bit more and eat a little bit better? And let's see how that works out. And here's my methodology for figuring. Darrell, that's very vague. How many days are you going to work out? As many as I feel like it. What are you going to eat? What are you going to go vegan? No, I'm going to measure what I do in activity with this Fitbit,
Hmm.
and I'm going to measure what I eat with my Fitness Pal. And I'm going to
Right.
start there and figure it out. Like I don't even know what to do unless I track. And
Yeah.
so it goes back to saying, hey, can we just track what matters? And then we can make modest improvements. And so I lost about a pound a month for a couple of years. I got down to a buck 72, 172. And today I hover around 176 ish. So I put on a few, but I didn't blow them back up.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's just a methodology, man. And I think if you win the mental game, the rest of this life works out.
For sure. Yeah, you got to have a baseline. You got to start to where you're at and then figure out how you're going to make small, continuous improvement. We talk about it all the time on this show as well, how important
Yes.
it is to make small, incremental improvement every single day. And eventually, you look back and be like, damn, a couple years have passed and I'm a totally different person.
All with small steps. It's the simple
Always
things done over a long period of time that get you success. It sounds very
boring.
unsexy. It
Yeah.
sounds boring. It sounds mundane, but let's be clear. It is simple things done over a long period of time that get you to where you want to be. And before you know it, if they become habits, it just becomes natural. And
Yep.
I like to use the word non-negotiable because when you're clear about your destination, there are certain things that become non-negotiable.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And I like to, obviously, this has been an awesome conversation and I've learned so much, but I'd like to get some information on some of the things that inspired you. You said you started your self development journey in your early 20s. I did as well. I'm a big fan of books and podcasts, helped me in my journey, and YouTube videos. At that time, obviously, wasn't there for you, but what kind of helped you the most? And if there's something that you can recommend to our audience who are in their millennial stage, mid 20s, trying to figure out how to get that journey started, and or maybe halfway through or midway through, and they're trying to just get better every day.
Now it's a great start. I think books are they're the wonders of the earth. You're going to be able to take someone's expertise, someone's life experience, someone's work, and they're going to delineate that into a 200 word or 250 word book. First book I read was Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power in This World of Self-Development. He soon came out after that with Awaken the Giant Within. Those two
Hmm.
books were critical for me. There are lots of books on a lot of topics. And so I would say that when you're starting a journey, the first thing you can do is understand what you're weak at and look for books in that category. So if you feel like you're weak in the area of, and there's all kinds of reasons. One of the big challenges for me, and when you grow up in in an environment, it doesn't matter what the environment is, you get conditioned by the environment. And I realized in my 20s, I had some conditioning that I had to break. I had to break some conditioning to keep it simple. And so I remember one of the early books I read was The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I wanted to understand why I thought certain things the way I thought them. And I wanted to figure out how to break the pattern because I realized that, and Anthony Robbins talked about it in his book, is that we do a lot of things through patterns and we have to pattern interrupt ourselves. And a lot of times it sounds easy superficially, but it's harder because it's maybe deeper in our subconscious. I would say things my parents used to say, like money doesn't grow on ATMs. That doesn't help you when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In theory, you're right. They don't. But or money doesn't grow on trees. I'm sorry. What do you think I am, an ATM? Those were two phrases I
Yeah.
heard when but that's not good thinking when you're running a business because you need to grow revenue and be profitable. Um, Two things though. The other big thing that I think I've benefited from the last 20 something years is going to conferences and seminars. When you get into a room with like-minded people who have energy to improve themselves, for
Hmm.
me, call it a spiritual thing, if you will, but there's something magical about that. I don't care if you buy what they're selling. I don't care what the topic is, but when you get in a room for 2 or 3 days at a
Hmm.
conference or a seminar and everybody was there for the same topic, there's something magical to me about that that I take away from that. First of all, energy, because a lot of times you're doing things that some people are not aligned with. They may not understand
Hmm.
what you're doing, especially if you're running an entrepreneurial firm or things like that. If they can't resonate with you, they can't really support you. They love you, but they can't support you. They can be your friend, but they can't support you. In my 20s, I can't tell you how many parties I missed, how many clubs I didn't go to because I was doing the work. I was doing the work of the vision.
Hmm.
I did not go to parties. I did go to some, but I mean, I wasn't in a nightclub every night. It was just I didn't do the same thing. Plus, I had kids, so I got a different game. In my 20s, I'm a dad and I'm an entrepreneur trying to grow a business. And so I had to put some of those things on hold. Some of my friends, you get ribbed and jibbed and, they mess with you. But those are two big things I think people can do. The other area is podcasts, which is what we're doing right now. I think podcasts are the absolute best, one of the best opportunities today to learn from a diverse set of experts across a number of platforms. I have no time to study AI. I have no time to study electric vehicles. I have no time to study cryptocurrency right now on my regular time. You know when I do it? I listen to podcasts at the gym.
Hmm.
I listen to them when I'm running. I can do those two things together and get time. I don't have as much time to read books as I used to. I'd love to read a book a day or a book a week, whatever. I don't have time to do it today. So I just consume through podcasts. So those are the three things I'm always going to suggest, those three things: books, seminars or conferences, and podcasts. And two of those three are just about free. Books cost you next to nothing.
Yeah, especially
Right?
now.
Yeah. So
For sure. Speaking of podcasts, you have your own. So I'd like you to tell people where they can find you either via the podcast or reach out to learn more.
yeah, podcast is called the MindShift Podcast. And what we do in that show is interview entrepreneurs and leaders along the two journeys of life. And that is the journey from inspiration to realization, which is breaking down the idea of how did you go from this idea to getting to being realized, get to that goal. But more importantly, and often more impactful, is the journey from breakdown to breakthrough. I call those failures in life. How did Darrell recover from that situation and other things like business failure? Had a business failure, had a couple business failures. Having that conversation, we like to say we have real conversations. We tell real stories. We unpack real strategy that helps our audience find real success. So the Mindshift podcast is available anywhere you listen to a podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google, Pandora, Amazon, all that good stuff, as well as we have our website at themindshiftpodcast.com. And yeah, it's available. And if you're interested, check it out.
Will do, man. I love this conversation. This has been extremely a lot of learning for me, and definitely I've taken notes in my mind while listening to you. So I would love to have you on the show again anytime, and open invite whenever you have some availability, Darren.
I appreciate it, Sammy. Thanks for doing the work of sharing this platform. I always like to applaud those. I'm super jealous that I didn't have a chance to do it in my 20s, but hey, it is what it is. Keep doing the work you're doing because it'll reach a lot of people. It speaks to that conversation that I said earlier, which is engagement. When
Mhm.
people listen to your show, they're going to learn from the people that you bring onto the show, the diverse group of people. And I don't believe anyone can leave a set of a conversation like this or any of your other guests that you've had on and not be a little bit better uh, after listening to it. And I think that's the beauty of podcasts. So keep doing the work, man. And I'm happy to support you in your journey as we stay connected.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.